Back to News Live at 6. Tonight, we take a look at new historic documents that begin to tell the story of a 230-year-old dispute over land, including the land this year campus is on. Citrus TV's John Perrick investigates.
Take exit 16 off I-81, and you'll learn of a disconnect as old as Onondaga County.
New York State history and indigenous history do not coincide together.
Neil Paulus is a member of the Onondaga Nation. His whole life, he's been telling the story of the land Syracuse sits on.
That land was stolen.
But as for the details about how,
and that history, that is hidden. It's not talked about, it's not discussed.
today the Onondaga Nation owns this 7,000-acre plot of land just south of the city of Syracuse. But Neil Paulus told us of historic documents that begin to tell a different story of a different time, where the Onondaga Nation owned much of this land that is now central New York. We went to the Syracuse University Special Collections Archives in Byrd Library to look at these documents the public has never seen before. There, we found a map from the late 1700s outlining the original plots of land belonging to the Onondaga.
That includes DeWitt, that includes Erie Boulevard, that includes the entire downtown Syracuse University, all the way down to what is Onondaga Nation now, including that, beyond that, to Tully.
We also found a letter from Moses DeWitt, one of Central New York's first European settlers. The letter was written to the New York State Legislature outlining what scholars say is an illegal purchase of the land. The date on the letter, 1794, the same year Onondaga County was founded.
Brings up a lot of questions.
Questions Onondaga Nation chiefs like Spencer Lyons have never considered. He spoke to us while in quarantine.
I hope that it helps to open doors and open conversations, open minds about the history of Onondaga County. I just never seen maps that clearly outlined the Canandaigua Treaty territory.
And neither has Neil Paulus, who wants to begin a dialogue with the county to bring the land back.
Let's have bigger conversations about these things and bring in the people that need to be in those conversations to share knowledge, to share perspective, and to share, to bring in the people that can make decisions on it.
And we contacted the county executive's office. A spokesperson said conversations about returning the land have already happened, and Neil Paulus was, quote, lying.
There's no dispute about this. This is Onondaga land.
Attorney Joe Heath has spent decades fighting with U.S. courts for land ownership.
Need for justice for the theft of this land will not rest.
He says he was a part of conversations with the county that went nowhere.
The last communication on this, any communication at all, goes back to last April. This is after a series of postponed or canceled meetings or Zooms.
And now, Heath says when he reaches out to County Executive McMahon about returning land, the phone goes to voicemail.
You can't resolve complex problems if you don't even talk to each other, and that's where we are at this time.
Today, with conversations about land return between the county executive and the Onondaga Nation at a halt, and further proof of what scholars are calling an illegal purchase of Onondaga land surfacing, you might ask, how do we make this all right? Well, walk into Michelle Shenandoah's classroom.
Land, the people, the history.
Shenandoah teaches a class on indigenous law at Syracuse University. She was one of the first people to unearth the letter and the map. She showed it to her students.
Once people know these papers are here and what they technically did in terms of dispossessing the Onondaga Nation of land, if you ignore it, right, then you become part of the ongoing problem.
And on Friday, her class had a guest speaker.
New York State then eventually stole 99% of this land.
Show up, sit at the table, have a discussion, and find out how we can find a solution together.
A solution to a problem 230 years old.
and we're now joined with Citrus TV's John Parrick. John, why is the county not responding to the nation's demands?
Well, that's the question that Attorney Joe Heath, who you saw in that story, is asking right now. And we reached out to the county executive's office, and they are citing COVID-19 as the reason. Let's take a look now at a quote from their spokesperson saying, "It's not exactly fair or arguably appropriate to suggest we aren't serious about these conversations," while citing the period of time we were on the front lines of the global pandemic. And now, of course, as we move into this post-pandemic period, should be interesting to see if both parties can come to terms.
Thanks, John.